guest this evening is Renee Coltson. And Renee Coltson is a spiritual healer, international workshop facilitator, and speaker. She leads compassionate-driven events for the benefit of humans, animals, and the planet. Renee has been called by many the Maven of Animal Healing. Being born to a conservative Midwestern family with roots in mysticism, Renee developed a practical and pragmatic approach regarding life's mysteries. She discovered early in life her natural, powerful healing abilities. Throughout the decades, Renee has experienced many interactive otherworldly encounters which constantly expand her spiritual relationship with nature, humans, and the planet itself. She teaches through enlightening perspectives, inspiration, and a greater understanding of the importance of recognizing the other citizens of the earth as sentient beings. Renee understands that compassionate action is vital to achieving greater global peace, and she knows love is the key. In 1996, Renee founded Partnership in Planetary Healing, a humanitarian organization dedicated to easing suffering and raising consciousness. Her websites are www.reneecolton.com and www.piphealing.org. And please welcome Renee to the show this evening. Good evening, Renee.
Good evening, Solaris. Wow, it's really good to be back with you.
It's wonderful to hear your voice. I heard you in the background there clearing and toning your throat. When we're live on air, it's fine.
Sludge from an international flight, I think.
Well, yeah, that's all that crap. Well, it's a long flight, right?
Really long.
Yeah, but I'm glad you're back. So tell us about what you were doing over there. I know you were teaching and doing workshops, right?
I was in Australia, and then I went into New Zealand. I was teaching the Healing with Animals workshop, which is so much more than that. It's really, when you talk about healing with animals, you're really, in my perspective and how my philosophy, goes out to humanity, is when you're teaching about healing with animals, you're really sharing the philosophy of healing humanity, healing the planet, looking at a higher, bigger picture of the totality of all that we are connected to one another. And until we align with one another, we will not ever achieve global peace. Mm-hmm. So the Healing with Animals workshop is sort of, let's just call it the doorway, that gets me before the people, because people who love animals always have an open heart. They always have a higher consciousness about that kingdom and how they relate to us and relate to them. And, for the most part, people who really, really, really love animals will do more for them than they will do for themselves. And I'll raise my hand on that one. And
I agree. Yeah, I'm totally into the animal kingdom. There's no doubt about that one. Yeah, I always say that they're a lot easier to deal with than people.
Well, that's why my practice really centers around animals. I mean, there's that occasional human being who will, get through the fog on my website or be referred to me from another human being. Go, well, does this work with people too? Well, of course, what I do works with people, but people, you have to be ready. Well,
they have their issues, they have their programming, all that stuff that goes on with them.
Correct.
So, did you have any type of animals actually there with you, or did you just do distant work with the animals? How did that work?
Oh, in Australia, New Zealand, right. I had groups of people in both countries who really wanted to go out and begin to include working with animals, interacting with animals in their healing practice. So maybe they already have a healing practice with people, whatever they do, right? Or maybe they don't, or maybe they've never had any kind of healing. Maybe they don't even know what that means, right? Maybe they never had a healing practice or have ever engaged professionally or on any level of healing whatsoever in that understanding. So both countries really was about bringing the concept and the philosophy of we can benefit animals through consciousness and through frequency healing, or, I'll get more into what does that mean, I'm sure, because you'll ask me those questions.
Oh, absolutely. Well, now that we're at that point in the continuum, what is frequency healing?
Well, I think most people by now are familiar with, where I began was when I was a child with just natural healing abilities. I had no idea about anything except for animals healed in my presence when I opened myself up to compassion and to asking God to please make this animal better. And that led into a whole new scope of interacting with animals in my way longer, far in the future, adult years from then, to understanding. And, I was a natural healer, Solaris, for all my life. And when I left my corporate career, because those abilities kicked in full on when I was not all focused on corporate, responsibilities, and in my career, I took a sabbatical, and that's when they showed up. They were always there, by the way, but my awareness was not. Okay. So I began to understand that, energy was effective, is a tool for empowerment, for harmonization of consciousness, and for healing people and animals and the planet all at once. But I didn't have any training. No one taught me those ideals. I came in with that. That's sort of my soul, right?
Right.
But I actually, didn't do too well trying to go out into the world and offer these perspectives. So I decided to go to training. And so my first level of training was Reiki. So I'll just use that as a perspective that I think by now, because, I was back in the 80s then, right? I think by now, most people, well, I don't know about most, but your listeners, for the most part, would understand what Reiki is. Translation, universal life force energy. Ki, chi, prana, universal life force energy, whatever you want to call it. It all really comes down to love and transmitting through your heart, which is your innate language from birth. It is the universal language. It is the interaction with everyone and everything without the spoken word. And anyway, so I learned how to do Reiki, and I learned about the philosophy of energy and how to transmit and receive it and so on. And that was, like I said, back in the 80s. And I became a Reiki master teacher in 1993. I did that for 11 years, and I went on to another body of work which is more based on these new frequencies of healing, which really are here because of where we are in the universe now, where we began to enter into a new, well, it's not new, not really, because the Earth just hadn't been in this place in the universe for over, from my understanding, by the way. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biophysicist. I'm not a quantum physicist. So all of this sharing that I speak is really from my own perspective and my own understanding. I just, I don't want scientists out there finding me like a joke, right? So anyway, it's my experience that I'm sharing and what my perception is of it, because that's really all we all have, right? Because perception drives your reality. And reality is never finished. It's always changing based on your perspective.
Right.
So
it's in flux. Yeah.
That's true. So my perspective now at this time, and I spent 16 years in this, I'll just say it out loud. I was on the international teaching team for Dr. Eric Pearl for 16 years with the embodiment of a corporation called The Reconnection. And I just came to a point in my knowing, my philosophy, my being, that I could no longer be part of that structure, period. I needed to spread my wings and fly free. And here I am. It's been a year and a half, and it took almost that long for me to still unfurl all the bullshit, from corporate reality.
Well, you have to, decompress. From the cult
I really
collective.
had to purge it. Yeah, exactly. So, but what I did learn, and I credit, all of that training with this, back in 1992, I did mention that I've had these, what did I say? Otherworldly experiences that have continuously over the decades, and they have been over the decades. They've been over the decades for so many decades. God, I'm so old, I can hardly count. But one of them was in May of 1992. And I had an experience out in the desert where basically I think it was multidimensional. I saw things from a bigger picture, from a higher perspective on how things work in this matrix, in this grid of being able to go out into the world and either really create change or stand there and do nothing. And beyond that, I had people show up in my life, in 1992 that really brought more perspective to me. I'll say it out loud again. It was an extraterrestrial who came in after May 10th of 1992. Actually, I found the date on the transmission where he actually showed up physically in my world and wrote me a long note on May 24th of 1992. So that experience on May 10th led up to him showing up, and where I was really now introduced to this new, again, I'll say it's not new, because this spectrum of energy has been in the universe for eons upon eons of time, but the Earth lost that spectrum of energy. We were not able to actually connect into it. I don't know. Okay, I have no idea. 265,000, 300,000 years ago, we lost our connectivity to the fullness of the universe. And in May of 1992, I was reintroduced to it. Now, did I know that at the time? Of course I didn't. I had no clue. But I can tell you, I can always and only communicate from my perspective of this is what happened, period. I don't make up stories. I don't come to my own conclusions. I wait for the information to arrive, and I never go out into the public arena and say it out loud until I know what happens. And so what happened with that individual who really showed up through another interesting scenario, through friends of mine, actually. It was like a real physical world thing. And he came in and he spent 2 weeks with me up at my very private little ranch at a dead end at the end of Dolores in Cave Creek, Arizona. And once I had this interaction with him, now by then I was doing Reiki. I was in Reiki Master training. I wasn't yet a Reiki Master when I met him in 1992. I was soon to become that. But as soon as I had this interactive experience with him, and this was, again, it was in the next step from my, call it a tutorial in the desert on May 10th. That's what opened the door for him to show up. Once I interacted with him, I was aware that I've been in healing professionally for about 30 years, right? And I know what happened before I met him, and it was profound. Yes, on its own, Reiki was amazing. I had amazing, amazing, amazing results. But after my interaction with him, he called himself Stephen, things changed. And I really couldn't put my finger on it. Not only did things in the healing sessions change, but when I was practicing doing Reiki attunements for my completion of the Reiki Master training, those attunements changed dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't with everyone. So I would do the Reiki attunement, and then I would stand in front of the person, and I would, about to reach out for them to take their hands apart, put their hands on the lap, and go, whatever I said. And I would feel a transmission welling up through my body. And I would go, oh, wow, let's just step back and let's just let this happen. So I would step back and I would just feel this incredible transmission of energy come through me. And then I would complete the process, take their hands apart, put their hands in the lap, and whatever word I said, I don't remember. But the people who I acknowledged in my own knowingness, like, wow, they're receiving something more. Mm-hmm. They are dialing in something more than Reiki. Mm-hmm. And then they would always have these amazing reports of, their experience. Now, what I found interesting, because then I became a Reiki master teacher, and I went out and I did presentations, and I had this one guy, Jerry Ferraccio was his name, and he was really always at my side at the presentations, and I would have a hard time explaining that, and he would say, what Renee is not really able to put into words is that, yes, you will receive a Reiki attunement, but she is dialing into other stations. She is actually receiving more than universal life force energy, and some people choose to receive that transmission. Mm-hmm. That's all I knew. Solaris. That was the end of that story for a number of years. And then I showed up at that seminar in 2000 with Dr. Eric Pearl, and I recognized it. I went, oh, this is that. Mm-hmm. This feels like that. And as it turns out, he was introduced to those frequencies in August of 1993.
Very interesting.
Which is basically very interesting, like a year and a half after.
Right.
But you know what? I know for sure that I was interacting with that extraterrestrial. And I really do know that guy truly was an ET. I mean, that's a whole nother show.
He sounds like a walk-in. So it was it was a physical person, but it sounds like it was a walk-in. Is that it?
Yeah, and he knew that he was here, and through my friends that introduced him to him just a couple days after this experience, he said, I need to spend time with you. So anyway, so what I know now, and it did take me because I got completely enveloped in, a trademark, okay? Completely. All the rules, all the regulations, all of the corporate, stuff about using somebody's trademark and ownership, and God forbid. And 16 years later, I left. I went, I can't do that. I really left to protect the animal program. That's why I left. And it was after that what I realized is that my dog is going crazy. I'll let him out. I'm out under the stars, just so you know.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
out on the front porch because in the backyard I heard something large chomping on a block. I went, okay, I'll go to the front porch. It's raised. Anyway, it was, I don't know the full timeline, but since a year and a half ago when I resigned, I really knew that this is the life force of the planet. Remember, my background is Reiki and natural healing. Mm-hmm. And I became fully aware that this is the state of universal life force energy, prana, chi, ki, whatever label you want to put on it, in its state of evolution, that this planet is shifting. And I've had enough of those otherworldly experiences that I've actually seen it, not just coming in from the outer universe, because, hello, we're floating in this galaxy. The Earth is a galactic experience. We are part of this solar system. We're not separate from it. And so therefore, of course, it makes sense that this evolved life force, which, by the way, I call ELF, E.L.F. ELF, evolved life force, to shorten it, is coming up through the biology of the planet. It's coming in from the cosmos. It's integrating through the magnetic grid and the crystalline grid and all of the operating systems of this planet. Is integrating and really spewing out this new level of life force. But I am in agreement with the fact that until someone at this point, now I'm not going to say this is going to be the way it's forever. It can't be. Right? For the moment, though, until people really become aware of it and they have an interactive experience with it and they know it, like me back in 1992, right? It was there already, but I didn't know what it was. I couldn't consciously call it up. I couldn't consciously interact with it. It was completely spontaneous. So I was like a front runner, I guess, in this. And now it's like, great, let's just bring this awareness forward that it's here. Not only is it coming in from the cosmos, it's bubbling up through the planet, and it's about a paradigm shift. It's about a consciousness shift. It's about compassion. It's about raising the planetary consciousness of this planet to shift how we feel, think, and act.
Right.
There you go.
That's very true. Well, you know, what's interesting, and I see that also, and this has been going on for a while now, that we've been having all these what I call galactic energies descending onto the world. But what else is interesting is that you're seeing the upheaval of craziness going on, where people can't seem to hold the vibration of these consciousness shifts. They literally are just falling apart. They're imploding. People are acting insane. You could say they're mind controlled. But what is your impression of that? Because it seems to me like they're not able to stabilize or actually absorb the energies. Is it because their meridian systems are out of balance, or what do you think's going on?
Well, actually, I think that we're tuning forks, and that if you have a state of consciousness and you are living in fear and you have aggressive behavior in your way of, your typical way of interacting, if you're a bully or you've got, let's just say fear, which is the opposite of love, however that's coming through. We are interacting with the field at every moment, the field of unified awareness. And so if we're a tuning fork, we're going to draw to us and we're going to amplify in our life. You are going to manifest in your life your very thoughts. So if somebody's out there and they're kind of crazy, like afraid, or, let's face it, I don't really want to get into politics, okay, but let's just use it as an example. I mean, there is such a division, and just the fact that this guy came out shooting, right, in Virginia this week. And people he knows are, it just makes no sense. Well, it makes sense because he was feeding into all of that energy where he was living in his mind, right, against Trump. Let's just say it like it is. He was living in his own mind, his body, his spirit, his emotions, all of that energy, and he was attracting, because we're tuning forks in the field, he was attracting those collective consciousness thought forms to himself, driving his actions and the way he was speaking. And that is no matter what the situation, no matter what the scenario is, the same thing applies. We are tuning forks. You know how I used to have this bowl, a singing bowl. I've actually
I like those.
a few of them, but yeah, crystal bowls or the Tibetan bowls that are usually you ring them, and then, or your guitar. If you're playing a guitar and you play a note, you know, it starts playing the other notes of other guitars, right? Well, I had a tuning bowl, a crystal bowl that was a big, big bowl. It was a C note. My dog Max barked, and he would ring the bowl. Like, he would bark, and that bowl would ring because his bark was a C vibrational note. I actually got rid of the bowl, just so you know. It's like I went,
oh, really?
I'm done. I did. I mean, I love my dog, Max, but it's like, really, every time he yipped, I needed to hear my bowl go off in my bedroom, which was next to it. No, I got rid of it. But the piece of information is important. Now I would love to have that bowl back because Max is gone. And every time I would hear that C note, I would think of my Max barking. But anyway, that's a tuning. That's like a tuning fork. And so it attracts to it the energy that it is. And so that's the answer to your question from me. Anyway,
yeah, it makes
from my
sense.
perspective is that's why it's so crazy, because now the people, I have a situation in my life right now because I know on former programs I've talked about the beluga whale. By the way, he now calls himself Stan Bull, and that's a 911 vibration. So it goes back to your...
Interesting. How do you correlate 911 vibration, though? What does that mean?
Like you said from the beginning, at least in the U.S., for the very first time I shared that story with you, you said, oh, I think those turbulent waters, I think that,
Right, I remember
whale was, right. And so now, so Stan Bull, when I did the numbers on it, Stan, 9, Bull, 11, is like, heads up, this is serious, this is critical. This
emergency.
Is like, yes. And so at this point, we are beings of free will. And I am, so, he taught me about this negative energy and positive energy and how, we really have to take responsibility for the energy that we're putting out there, and especially people who, like us, who have a vibrant and vigorous, it means it has a great deal of energetic footprint. Yeah, there are a lot of people out here that their waves don't go far, right? I hate to say it, but, there's a lot of humanity out there that they're just not going to uplift this consciousness on the planet. They're not. They're just not going to. It's just not going to happen to them.
Right.
But there is that small percentage, and, your listeners would be, I've said this before, I probably said it in every interview we've ever done. It's a small group of humanity, 3 to 5%. By the way, 5% is generous. Who are?
I think it's 3. Go ahead.
Yeah, I like I said, I wishful thinking. Those other 2% will actually wake up. But who are here to really, at this time, and have been going through lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of experiencing being a human being, for this call to action right now on this planet, because we are shifting into a new paradigm. And we have a vigorous energetic footprint. So when we participate in putting out negative energy, it's the size of a tsunami. We actually do matter. And the dark side, we've talked about this before, the dark side, which, Solaris, back in December when we had an interview, I called you. I went, I'm having a hard time with this. This is not my language. I'm being told that the negative energy coming out from a person who's here, there's a lot of labels for us: light worker, planetary transition team, star seeds, messenger, starborn. I mean, there's endless little, labels for us, but still, it's us. And when we emote on a negative vibration, it goes out. It's a wave of size of tsunami, and the dark side harnesses, harvests it, and weaponizes it against the light. Well, so I've been challenged on this since November, and I've, recently, just say, oh God, it was like a month ago, challenged once again. So they didn't get me the first 3 times, okay? The first 3 times I held my ground of positivity. I just was an observer. I didn't participate. I was all love. Well, the last time, a month ago, oh no. No, I jumped in full on, man. Both feet.
You brought out the Kali.
Oh, geez. Awful. Terrible. And, but the interesting thing is that I'm watching it unfold from the other side, meaning the other person. And now I'm not participating. I'm still an observer. Yes, I did that day. She actually, she's a police detective. She actually did threaten me with bodily harm. That actually tells me in a social situation, and you're a cop, you do not threaten a supposed friend in a social situation with bodily harm. That makes you completely unfit for law enforcement. But, that is
plenty of those
she'll
around.
never be listening. She'll never hear this because she's spiritually defunct. But anyway,
go ahead.
She's lucky somebody else from the ranch will hear this. And I go, oh, God, you see Renee brought up about this. But here's what I got out of it. Holy crap. Wow, that was awful. And then I left the country, okay? Because I did. It's right after that, I was gone. And I just, without going into a big deal, it's just I basically had my fill of, oh, woe is me, everybody's picking on me, and Big Bad Renee now, she's picking on me, and that's her life. She's a victim. Every time you turn around, somebody's doing something to her. And by the way, the reason I bring this up is because it's a consciousness on the planet. And it is affecting everyone. And I do believe that's why I was brought into this situation. Yes, I'm sorry. I actually did 3 Hail Marys and an Our Father with a Catholic. I did. And I'm not even Catholic, okay? Because I was going, I feel terrible about this. How could I do that? But the bigger picture is this. I'm watching what's happening in this situation. And this human being is out and about really trying to poison every other person against me and how horrible I am or what I did. This is what people do. Now, I'm observing, so I am not participating in that. And, I adopt the Terry Cole Whitaker. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's this amazing woman, from LA, who's kind of Christian-based. No, absolutely Christian-based. And she has a lot of CDs out there. Well, a long, long time ago, I heard her CD, and she said, the title of it was, What You Think of Me Is None of My Business.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I've heard that before from various authors. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's one of my mottos.
And so I'm just, yes, and so I'm just stepping back into the background, hearing about all this stuff, and I'm going, oh, you know what? I really don't want to know what she said, but she's 3 to 4, well, it's now 4 weeks, consuming her life. And so the interesting thing is that aspect of personality in today's world is very prevalent in planetary consciousness, and that is the underlying issue. That's how I see this. It's too bad I participated in it, but if I hadn't, I guess I wouldn't have gotten this. But, geez, for me to do 3 Hail Marys, that it was awful, right?
Well, yeah, but people can be weird. I mean, they have their own psychological issues, and as you were saying, that seems to be a thread in the fabric, though, here on the timeline. I've seen that.
It is, and as long as somebody, and if people are out there, experiencing their own victimhood, and living in victim consciousness, like everybody's against me, all of this happens to me, and they take no responsibility. Not only that, they don't even grasp the fact that they are empowered to completely turn this around, and it all comes through our interaction with the unified field of awareness, which is a quantum blackboard now. I said it earlier.
That's a good
I'm
idea.
not a scientist.
I like the way you describe it. Go ahead.
They can change it. Well, that's a Lynn McTaggart, just so you know.
I like
blackboard board. I like it too, and that's the reason I listen to her, is because she's not a scientist either, but she's a journalist. And, there's all kinds of information out there on the field, but nobody says it better to me than Lynn McTaggart, because she's not a scientist. She's a journalist, and she knows how to ask the questions and how to extract information. Anyway, so that all relates, that long dissertation, all relates to why do I think it is that this is happening right now with so many people on the planet, that people are, they're a mess, all right? A mess. Because they're attracting to them the way they're thinking. And until they actually turn it around to like, wow, I want out of this. How do I get out of this? A, take responsibility for your actions. B, understand that it's all energy. It's all based on vibration. And you have the power to shift that way of being. We can hang up now because that's the whole thing.
No, it's so true. And I think I'm always thinking that a lot of the problems of today are due to the iPhones and the computers. As much as I can appreciate technology, I have seen a huge distortion, amplification since we've had the iPhones, since we've had the internet, the Facebook, all the social media. It seems to me like it's just gotten out of control, and it's also teaching people bad habits. So I think there's a lot of deprogramming that needs to happen on a global scale, especially in the United States right now. And hopefully, hopefully that's going to happen. But I just look at the old days, and I'm not like trying to go back into time where we didn't have technology, but it just seemed to me like the energy was much more pure versus it's contaminated. It's completely distorted right now. It's almost like a temporal distortion due to all this, internet and iPhones and everybody's texting.
Well, that is a way. I went to dinner one night with a couple of friends, and I swear I would never have dinner with them ever again. And I haven't, because all they did was sit there on their cell phone. I mean, looking at Craigslist, answering emails. Well, do you think that they're part of that? I mean, I do think it's a program. I think it's programming. I think that it's a way that we are more isolated, that we are more going into ourselves, and in its addiction. I did see something on mainstream news the other night that said like, oh, well, big surprise, right? Technology is addictive. Hello. I mean, yeah, I turned off my DirecTV. I rarely go on my computer now. Of course, I did get a Samsung 8 Plus, so I don't have to go on my computer, but I try not to. It's like, wow, this is such a pollution to consciousness. And don't you think, Solaris, that that's the game?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's an entrainment program. It calibrates people to a technology. But the problem is it's diverting their psychic ability, their intellectual abilities onto a device, which is literally sucking their energy dry. They don't realize it, but it is happening. And I can honestly, tell you that I don't know about you guys, but I can't stand it when this thing automatically types a word. If I do 2 letters, it puts in a word. That teaches you to be stupid. That's an entrainment program, and I don't like that program because you want to think for yourself. You don't want something to try to assume what you're trying to say. And these programs are running like that. And I'm telling you, they're glitches in the matrix, and they're very defective when it comes down to programming, or insofar as, for people to just have their own brain and use their own and utilize their own mind. It's not healthy at all. I can tell you, the more I evaluate these programs, the more I'm seeing that they're very defective and not healthy. But, we use them for our benefits. But at the same time, I think the majority of people aren't doing that. And as you were discussing, they're sitting there at dinner, and they all have their noses stuck in their freaking iPhones. And I'm like, I can't stand it. I power it down. I do have an iPhone too. I power it down. I power it off. I don't use it unless I absolutely need to. But I'm sick and tired of this.
I'm there because, I want to have that personal interactive experience with people I care about, not their phone. loathe, I don't know if it was you I said this to this week, but I loathe autocorrect because I will type a message and then or even a Facebook posting, and I very carefully did a Facebook page posting like 30 minutes before our talk, because I really wanted, because, you know, Australia, New Zealand, where I just came from, is you know, I'm on their side of the equator, right? And I don't know what happened to it, but I kept looking at it and went, oh my God, where'd that word come from? And I would type a word and it would change it. And
it does that.
It makes me look illiterate.
Yep, that's the idea.
Completely illiterate. Yep. Right. Completely illiterate, and changes the whole context of what I actually had to say. And I don't know if that posting actually got out there or not, but because I shared it. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well,
but
it's
yeah, it's technology. I don't know, that solar flare, you know, when it happens, I mean, you know.
I won't miss technology when it goes. I'm going to tell you point blank. I can appreciate a computer. Excuse me. I can appreciate technology, but I'm sick and tired of this. And I think it's actually making people go in reverse. And I will not miss it when it goes. I really won't. And then the transhumanism stuff. And I've been involved with that, with the artificial intelligence stuff. And it's just an energy suck. That's all it's ever been, is an energy and a prana suck and a mind control program. And I don't care how good they try to make it or glorify it. It's nothing but an entrainment program. And it teaches you, in my opinion, to be stupid. So go ahead.
Well, the more they glorify it, the more they, quote, improve it, means the more under the control of it that we are. No, I hate technology. I mean, you know, I do. I have to live with it.
It's not even technology now. I think it's a convenient device, but I don't really think it's technologically advanced. You know, it's been, like you were saying, the autocorrect, all these stupid little glitches in it. The Siri, she's a reject. I mean, look at the things where you get your instructions from. Or people go off cliffs. I mean, you can't go by that when you're trying to drive to your destination. Whatever happened to the old maps, you know, the regular maps? Now people ask, they have to plug in everything and they have to put in their coordinates. Half the time they don't get to their destination. They get a detour from hell. So, you know, riddle me that, you know?
That's right.
What the hell's going on?
I think we really need to get back into, you know, connectivity.
Yeah.
Person to person, through the field, through our compassion, through truly interacting. And when that happens, you know, with people, it's going to happen at a completely higher level than we've ever really known before.
Right.
You know.
When you were describing, excuse me, your energy when you were, and I know this too because I'm a Reiki master teacher, and I remember how the energy mutates and morphs into higher frequencies. And what's interesting is that that's pure energy, pure consciousness right there. So you're already connecting into and dialing into the multiverse. You don't need a spaceship. You don't need a device. You don't need technology. You are the technology. And that's what the point is, that you know, maybe you didn't relay it, but that's really what I'm reading, that we are the technology and that we have these capabilities. And yet it's getting diverted energetically into all these types of, you know, devices and things that we think we need, when in fact we are the source beyond the source. So I think that's something to look at, because that's what I miss. I miss the frequency of consciousness permeating through the world. And it's just not happening because it's all been, you know, hijacked, as I lose my voice.
I agree.
Yeah, it's
I'm
just
with you on that.
So I don't know. I don't know. I can go on and on. We can go into a big debate about it, but you know, when you see the ups and downs,
we probably wouldn't debate, but
well, you know what I
mean.
The
no debate there, Solaris.
No, we usually are on the right page, on the same page on that one. But when you see the pros and cons of what's going on here in the timeline, it's just you know what needs to be done. We all know what needs to be done, and it's just and education, as you were saying too. It's really important that people start to educate themselves and do shadowing. You know, do some checks on yourselves and your behavioral patterns.
Absolutely. Really, people need to start looking at themselves. And yeah, I guess a really good mirror is to look at yourself, look at what's out there and bothering you, because it's going to be a reflection back to you, generally, of like what you need to really look at within yourself. And maybe what bugs you is what bugs you really about you, but there's an outer world expression of that behavior just showing itself to you, so you can think about it, rather than judging the other people going, well, wait a minute, you know.
Right, and I don't think people can educate themselves on the computers or on mainstream media. They've got to look into themselves.
No.
You know, that's the problem too. They're being educated by poor role models, and now the side effect of that is literally the youth of America are just becoming a nightmare from hell, because they've been indoctrinated into the mainstream media, into the false matrix, into all of this propaganda with reality television and all the garbage that's spewing. So, you know, you've got I'm not saying everybody, but there's a hell of a lot of people out there that are. So that's another thing. But I love the work you do with the animals, because so many animals are hurting here on this illusion of a planet. We have so many problems here with animals being abused. So your work is very, very powerful, and it's a great gift to be able to distribute to other people and teach them how to heal other people and animals.
Well, one of the things that I really felt, it's a 2-day workshop, but one of the things that really sets this experience apart from, say, if a veterinarian went out and tried to teach this workshop, it wouldn't be the same workshop. Mm-hmm. Because they look at animal behavior. They just come into their office. They're in the examination room. They put down to business. I mean, my experiences with my own veterinarians, which are my family doctors, but I have a relationship with my veterinarians, and that I just call them and say what's going on. They go, okay, well, keep me up on what, let me know how that goes, because they know what I do. And one of the things that is really important to understand is being able to relate to the animal and to understand the prioritization of their senses. So human beings, which, by the way, there's fewer of us on the planet than animals, and there's way fewer of us on the planet than plants. That makes us like, why are we thinking we're so important, right? Hello.
Yeah, Petri dish 101. Go ahead.
Exactly. Really? I mean, we're here to take care of them. We're here as the caretakers, not the dominators. But, that's a whole other story. But one of the things is to really be able to interact with that animal, to approach in this scenario where you are setting yourself up to go out and present yourself as a professional with an expertise to facilitate a healing session with animals. And let me just tell you that globally, for all of these years that I've done this workshop, almost 30, people are so surprised at how much there is to know and what they come out of at the end of the second day. It's like, oh my God, I had no idea. What do you think? You have to integrate into their environment. You have to understand what they're communicating. And so you say the word communicating. I was having a conversation with a colleague and good friend of mine just yesterday, Marie, who lives in Australia. And she said, yeah, the word communicating really is kind of, she might be in the chat room. I'm not sure. The word communication alone misleads people to thinking, well, we're talking to them. It's really not that. It's more about you're interrelating. It's you're relating to them and being able to, somebody's got to tell you. If you have never worked with a llama or an alpaca or a goat or a cow or a horse, or you don't have a dog, or you don't have a cat, congratulations on your cat, by the way, and you probably aren't going to really be able to walk into that animal's environment and be able to efficiently, effectively, and dynamically interact with that healing to provide and facilitate the optimal experience for healing for that animal. You've got to be able to get them comfortable. You have to be comfortable. They have to be comfortable. You have to know how to read the body language. You have to know how to look at that body, the shoulders, the bones, the muscles, and go, whoa, I just overstepped my bounds. There's a big I just saw tension. I just saw, that animal's about to launch. If you don't know how to do that, you really cannot go out and be a professional in the arena of animal healing. Now, a lot of people come just because they want to be able to help their own animals, and that's a different day. That's just one day, because they don't know their animals. But there's a whole lot to really understand about the animal kingdom, and there's really 3 categories. There's the animals in the wild, which if they're lucky, they're never going to meet a human being ever. But if they do, it's because they're in distress and they've met someone chances are they're in distress because some human being put them that way. And then they encounter a human being who can actually assist them. And then the second category is the domesticated animals, which means they provide a resource to humanity. I'm not even going to get into the good, bad, and judgment of that. But
and Renee, we're going to head for a break, so hold that thought there. Everybody, you're listening to Ravenstar's Witching Hour here. I'm Solaris BlueRaven. My wonderful guest tonight is Renee Coltson. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.